From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe, where sometimes, hey, we're reading books, and that just ends up with us going down a line of episodes that we just have to keep going down. Like, that's just what happens. Sometimes. And I'm not saying this is the time that it's happening, but sometimes it happens. Anyhow, I'm Taylor here with Chelsea. We are your podcast hosts, and today we got another Bigfoot episode on our
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm sure you guys are sick of Bigfoots. Like, yeah.
I could never be sick of Bigfoots, to be honest.
And that's what I'm hoping from our listeners. And I got, it's not just a Bigfoot episode, and weirdly enough, Chelsea, this is a continuation of an episode you did well in the past, where Jell-O was eaten. Yeah.
We've been doing episodes for too long. I do not remember Jell-O being eaten.
Well, this is a Bigfoot episode, but there are two main factors in everything I want to be talking about today, Chelsea. First off, there is mention of a Bigfoot sighting. It either will happen, has happened, or is happening. I don't think is happening actually happens. I just need to get all the tenses involved here. What else will happen in each of the things that I'm going to be talking about today is that the government's going to be getting involved, or at least somebody who says they're from the government's going to be getting involved. Today, Chelsea, we are doing Bigfoot meets the Men in Black episode.
What? There's Bigfoot Men in Black?
Yes, this might be a weird way to say it. It's not just Men in Black. It's going to be the government's intervention with people who say they saw a Bigfoot or going to see a Bigfoot.
Okay, and you know what? We've had a few episodes with Men in Black come up. One was the Men in Black episode, and the other one was John Keel, the Mothman Prophecy.
Yeah.
John Keel.
Yeah, where the Man in Black drank the delicious Jell-O.
That was the John Keel episode. I think it was. I don't know what episode it was.
It had Men in Black in it because they were drinking Jell-O.
Yep, they sure were.
Chelsea, it is not just an alien interaction that the Men in Black have. It actually is a very distinct interaction that we see when it comes to other groups. Today, we're just going to be looking at the Bigfoot area. No, we're not just looking at Men in Black. I thought we'd look at like weird times people say the government has interacted with them with regards to Bigfoot things.
I can get behind that. I'm also interested in knowing about that.
And I think an interesting place to actually start is this year, the FBI actually released a group of documents with regards to Bigfoot. They released their entire Bigfoot archives, which turns out to be 22 pages of documents.
That's it?
Yep, that's it.
You know, I wouldn't expect the government to have a heavy hand with Bigfoot. I don't know why.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually was trying to find things on the national parks and anything they had, and they got nothing. Which, you think they'd at least have some sort of weird study out there that says, like, hey, people are saying they saw this, like, let's at least look into it.
Well, if I know anything from anything of David Pilatus that I've listened to, it's that the national parks know nothing. And this proves it.
Yeah. I think he comes up later in this episode. I can't remember if I cut that part or not, but let me just say what I will be talking about is just a tip of the iceberg of people claiming government interaction or people from official statuses trying to interact with them with regards to Bigfoot sightings.
Interesting.
So I just had to limit it to what I found the most interesting, and we could do another episode on this because there is so much.
We should then.
But like I said, we have this one document. It was released this year, March of 2026. 22 pages, and it's basically a back and forth between this guy named Peter Burns, Byrne.
That sounds familiar.
From the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition. He sent these 16 hair samples to be tested by the FBI, and he keeps following up, and he's like, hey, I keep hearing that you guys studied these things and you couldn't figure out what it came from. It came back unknown. And eventually the FBI gets back to him and they're like, I don't know where that keeps coming from. We studied it. It's deer. That's all you sent us was deer hair.
Okay.
So that's the one document that I was able to find from the FBI or any official government spots. It's kind of funny that it just ends up doing that way over 22 pages, and it's from the 70s, so it goes real slow. But let's get in some actual, these are the ones where people get super conspiracy about. And the first one, Chelsea, I don't think neither of us were alive for this. The explosion of Mount St. Helen.
No, I don't think I was alive for that.
No, because it happened in 1980. I just saw right at the top when I'm going to start my script here. When Mount St. Helen blew its top on May 18th, 1980, it wasn't just trees and elk that vanished under ash and fire. In years that followed, a stranger story began to circulate. According to rumors, rescue and recovery crews working in the National Guard found more than animal carcasses in this blast zone. Which makes sense. You're in the Pacific Northwest, Bigfoot stomping grounds, like quite literally. So, a couple of them had to die in that explosion, right?
Well, maybe. Depends.
Unless they got advance notice.
Depends on what you think Bigfoot is, technically.
That's fair. Now, helicopter pilots allegedly spotted large hairy bodies scattered among the debris. Bodies that didn't look like bears and definitely didn't look human. The story goes that those bodies were loaded into cargo nets, flown out under military supervision, and quietly disappeared. Witnesses claim that they were told to be quiet and that the operation was classified and that men in unmarked uniforms oversaw the removal. Where the bodies went depend on who you ask. Some say Fort Lewis, Hanford, maybe some unnamed government lab, and here's the thing, no official record of any of this exists. What a weird coincidence. The eruption zone was under strict military control, that's absolutely true, so civilians couldn't verify what was happening. Thousands of animals really did die and carcasses were airlifted for disposal. That part is fully documented, but not Bigfoot bodies. That is not documented. It comes entirely from anonymous or secondhand testimony. There's no reports, no photos, no physical evidence for this. I'll just give you a very clear example of like where these stories come from. At one of Ray Crow's Western Bigfoot meetings, someone brought up the topic of corpses of Sasquatches after the May 18th, 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. The witness heard of 2 Sasquatches the Army Corps of Engineers had taken out of the volcanic devastation. This was 2 months after the initial blast. Terry Reams heard of a dredging operation of the Cowlitz River and 2 bodies were found in the sand. A chopper flew them off. Joe Beelart offered that the crane doing the dredging was from the Manitowaka Company and that the bodies were found 2 weeks after the Mount St. Helens blast of May 18th, 1980. He suggested that somebody might want to track down the company and find out who are working the shift that the bodies have been found on. Like, that's it. All just rumors for this one. I'm not able to find anything that actually makes it sound true. But, like, nonetheless, it sticks around. Have you heard that one, Chelsea, that they found Bigfoot bodies during Mount St. Helens explosion? Okay.
No, I've never heard that one.
It's actually like a fairly big one.
Really?
Yeah.
No, but like where else, other than like Joe at the town hall meeting, where else do they, like, does it come up?
Honestly, I've read a few articles that they don't give references to where it comes from. Like, that was the only one I could find where it actually comes, like, with the original reference.
It's just like another one of those things that's just understood that's out there in the ether.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the people from Project Camelot follow those people home to their old folks' home and get so sad when they won't talk to them, despite them leaving letters to their attendants. Now, here's the next story I got. October 2008, deep in the Sierra Nevada near Gold Lake, hunter Justin Smeja and a friend were tracking deer when they saw something they couldn't explain. 2 figures, upright and covered in hair, moving through the trees. Smeja said that the first was huge, 7, maybe 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, walking like a man. He thought it was a bear and fired. Then a smaller one appeared, younger and thinner. He shot at that too, later calling it the humane thing to do. When he talked about it afterwards, he said, quote, "It looked like a person covered in hair." I don't know why he's saying that when he's saying
why did he shoot it? Oh my god.
You don't leave orphans.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a terrible person.
You could
Sorry,
never
anyhow,
shoot an orphan.
the protagonist of our story here. The 2 men left the mountain fast. Weeks later, Smeja went back with researcher Derek Randalls. In the snow, they found what looked like a piece of hide about the size of a hand, thick with coarse hair, frozen solid. They called it the Sierra Steak, and Smeja believed it came from the juvenile he'd shot. The sample was sent to several labs, including Dr. Melba Ketchum's private lab, a couple of university facilities, and 1 forensic lab that handled wildlife cases for federal agencies. According to Smeja, the results came back all over the map. 1 said human, 1 said human mixed with something unknown, and a 3rd said the sample was too degraded to classify. But the government-linked lab, he said they refused to release their full results. They told him, quote, "We can't classify this, we're not pursuing it further," end quote. And then they stopped answering his calls. Smeja's convinced the government didn't want to touch it, that they stonewalled, refused to return the sample, sample and pretended it never existed. Quote, if it had been a bear, end quote, he said, quote, they'd have told me. If it had been a person, I'd be in prison. End quote. We've done a whole episode on Dr. Melba Ketchum. Please go listen to that and you can learn a bit about her. Safe to say, she too is somebody who claims government intervention, but I think you can go back to that episode to learn more about hers.
And this was a separate lab that did it that wasn't Melba Ketchum, right?
Yes. He sent it to several labs, one of them being government, and he only got like weird pushback from the government.
Okay. I'm going to pretend you didn't say Melba Ketchum there and just leave it in.
Yeah, we're going to skip that. And Smeja eventually distances himself from her work, but he still insists something weird happened with the DNA. Someone didn't want to deal with it.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll accept that.
Now, the next one we're going to talk about happens in 1992. It's from a man named Paul Freeman. Now, it's worth knowing who Paul Freeman actually was, because depending on who you ask, he was either one of the most credible trackers in the Pacific Northwest or a complete fraud. It's kind of hard to tell with him, and that's me doing the research, saying it is kind of hard to tell with this guy.
Either he is like so credible and actually legit, or he's just a complete fucking fraud.
Yeah, and I actually do think this guy deserves his own episode, so I don't want to get too much into it. Like, he is incredibly interesting.
What was his name again?
Paul Freeman.
Okay, Paul.
Freeman spent years working as a U.S. Forest Service patrolman in the Blue Mountains of Washington and Oregon. He wasn't some weekend hiker, he lived in the woods, basically. He knew the trails, the wildlife, the smells, the sounds, and long before his name became tied to Bigfoot, which it completely is now, he already had a reputation among other rangers as a guy who could read the ground like a book. He was eventually fired from the Forest Services, not for anything Bigfoot related, but for internal issues that never got fully explained publicly. I couldn't find the actual answer why he was fired. After that, he leaned harder into tracking, and that's when he started finding big, wide Bigfoot footprints that split the Bigfoot community right down the middle. Some researchers swear these are the real deal. Others think he's too lucky for his own good, because he finds them a lot.
Okay, yeah, I would agree.
In the summer of 1992, Freeman was hiking a restricted section of the Mill Creek Watershed near Walla Walla. It's an area closed to the public, patrolled by the Forest Services, and not the kind of place you just wander into. He said he came across a line of fresh 16 to 18 inch tracks, a clump of reddish brown hair snagged on a branch, a pile of scat unlike anything he'd ever seen, and a musky smell that made him think he wasn't alone. He collected everything he could, the hair, the scat, and several plaster casts. I really hope he had a plastic bag with him for the scat.
I'm just picturing him like putting it in.
I don't have time. Yeah. And then later he says, quote, "It was the best evidence I had ever found, the kind of thing that should have changed everything," end quote. But according to Freeman, this is when things get strange. He said a group of Forest Service officials show up out of nowhere. They told him he was trespassing, confiscated the samples, took their own photos, and ordered him to leave immediately. Freeman said these weren't the rangers he knew, not local, not wearing standard uniforms. He called them, quote, "government types," end quote. He believed they were federal wildlife officers brought in specifically because of what he'd found. When he asked about the samples later, he was told they'd been destroyed, contaminated, no reasons to keep them. And when he went back to the site, the tracks were gone. The ground had been raked over. The area looked scrubbed clean. To Freeman, it felt deliberate.
Can you imagine? You go back and it's just like nicely raked. There's like lines.
Yeah, it's a little, what do you call those? The rock forest that you rake?
The like
a Zen garden. Yeah. Yeah. He said the officials refused to identify themselves, refused to explain why they were there, and told him to stop poking around in restricted areas. He took it as a warning and moved on. Researchers who knew him, like Grover Krantz and Jeff Muldrum, said Freeman told them the story right after it happened. Krantz, who wasn't exactly a conspiracy guy, said, quote, "Paul believed the government took his samples. I can't confirm it, but I can confirm he believed it," end quote. Meldrum also added, quote, "Paul felt he'd been interfered with. Whether it was a misunderstanding or something more, I can't say," end quote. Freeman kept searching the area, but he said he was followed, watched, even controlled by unfamiliar officials in the woods. He believed the government was monitoring him. I'll get a bit into the controversy of him here.
Okay.
First off, Chelsea, I know we've talked about butt prints before, and it's actually been a fairly recent phenomenon.
It's my phone background.
There's not just one, and Paul Freeman has apparently the second most famous butt prints.
No way. Second most
I can't believe,
famous
Paul Freeman butt prints.
print. Do I need to update my phone wallpaper?
And I'm going to start here. Though not the most famous supposed butt print in Sasquatch history, that being the Skookum cast, Freeman preceded the Skookum cast by about 7 years with his discovery of an impression of where a Sasquatch supposedly sat down. The impression was cast by Freeman and measured 14.5 inches across at its widest point. In his book, Sasquatch, Legend Meets Science, Jeff Meldrum devotes considerable attention to the supposed anatomical features of this impression, finding the impression of the tailbone and the maker well muscled. But there are red flags with Freeman, some raised by other Bigfoot advocates. At least 3 advocates engage in hands-on investigations of Freeman's track finds: Bob Titmus, Peter Byrne, and most notably, Rene Dahinden. In November of 1987, Dahinden visited Freeman and was present when Freeman supposedly discovered another set of tracks that Dahinden dubbed the Indian Spring tracks. Dahinden took off his own shoes and socks to see what sort of tracks his own feet would make beside the alleged Sasquatch tracks. Dahinden's own footprints were much more shallow than the Bigfoot tracks. The known human tracks were in soil fine enough to capture dermal ridges, and indeed Dahinden could see his own dermal ridges in his own tracks. Yet the Sasquatch tracks had none. While photographing the Sasquatch tracks, Dahinden blew loose dirt from the bottom of a track to remove it. A small piece of dirt contained dermal ridges was discovered in the process. Dahinden concluded, "It was my view that the skin pattern was made by someone patting down the dirt before pushing more dirt on top." That is, he believed he was being presented with a hoax. So, some people who have worked with him believe he hoaxes things. So, that's something we'll probably get into if he ever gets his
I
own
always
episode.
question, like, I know it's out there. I just always questions, like, why hoax a Bigfoot? It's not like...
You say that, but we did the episode on Rick
Yeah,
Dyer,
I know. That's
who also technically should be in this episode.
That's who I think of when I think Bigfoot hoaxer. But, like, what are you looking to get out of this, is my question. It just doesn't make sense to me, though I know that it happened. We've talked about it.
Now, Chelsea, what we're going to get into now, these all come from the book, Where the Footprints End, Part 2. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Men in Black portion of the Bigfoot community.
Cool.
And what is dubbed the Men in Plaid, because they are distinctly different from the Men in Black. And I think you're going to like this. And this is actually a story that you have heard before. In the early 2000s, a woman named Claire, visiting California from the UK on business, decided to spend a free afternoon photographing sea otters near Carmel. She followed a coastal path down to a quiet cove, the kind of place that feels untouched, and set up her camera on the rocks. That's when the air changed. She said she suddenly felt cold. The hair on her neck stood up. Across the cove, she saw movement. At first, she thought it was a group of large cats until she realized they were far too big. Quote, "They came around the promontory," end quote, she said. Quote, "Very large, very hairy, moving on all fours," end quote. One by one, the creatures entered the cove, the largest nearly 8 feet tall, followed by 2 smaller adults and 3 juveniles. Claire watched as the big male waded into the surf, tearing seaweed from the rocks and tossing it to the others. The females chewed the roots, rubbed the seaweed on their chests, and draped it over their shoulders like shawls. She was stunned, until part of her camera kit slipped and hit the rocks. The sound made every head turn. The male began moving toward her, gliding across the beach in a way she said looked unnatural. One of the females followed, and the two seemed to argue, screaming in what she described as gibberish. Then the male turned toward her, howled, and pounded its fists into the sand. Last thing she remembered was feeling sick as the creature approached her, mouth wide open. And when she came to, she was 20 yards from her car, bruised, scratched, her jacket pulled around her head, her camera and bag were gone. And I'll just add at this point, there was another part of the story that happened 2 weeks ago that we just don't need to get into for this episode.
So we think that there was Men in Plaid involved with it.
No, it's going to keep going. I'm just saying there was something there that happened that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Hotel staff, when she got back to the hotel, called the police, and that's when the story took an even stranger turn. So she gets back to the hotel, and these 2 men interrogate her from the police, I'll put in quotation marks, and one of them is like very tall. 6'8".
What?
Wearing a plaid shirt, long hair, beard, and just stands there where the other guy wearing a suit interrogates her.
What? That's crazy. 6'8"?
Yeah, he's a tall guy. When Claire finishes telling the story, first officer told her she'd seen bears and that she was lucky to be alive. Second man said nothing, just standing there. She was told not to return to the area. Claire left California early, still sick and shaken.
Interesting. I'd like to hear the next story. Are they all wearing plaid?
Yes, and it's the same kind
That's fucking weird.
It is super weird. They specifically talk, I'll get to it at the end. It's from one podcast, so we'll talk about it. Next story. In July of 1997, just a guy named Travis, I don't have his last name from the story. He was in Glacier National Park. He was out on cleanup duty with another worker when they caught whiff of something foul, like dead skunk, he said. Following the smell up the trail, they saw it, a massive hair-covered creature lying on its side, tearing apart a rotting tree. One of the men gasped, and the creature leapt to its feet and locked eyes with them. Travis said he was instantly nauseous. And then their radio crackled with static and the Bigfoot began shaking, roaring so loud it echoed through the valley. And the two men ran.
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that is terrifying. Back at the park, Travis was told by Forest Service staff to keep quiet. No one would believe him, they said. But he kept talking, asking questions, telling coworkers what he'd seen, and that's when the government showed up. On August 2nd, a black Ford Explorer with government plates rolled into the park. Out stepped a huge bearded man. So tall Travis, who's 6'4", had to look up to meet his eyes. The man started shouting in front of everyone, accusing Travis of confusing a bear for a mule deer, calling his story ridiculous.
These are the same.
When someone nearby called him Gary, the man corrected them. Call me Bear. Apparently his name's Bear. Travis believed this man had come specifically to intimidate him, to make sure the Bigfoot story died right there.
You know, the thing with the call me Bear, it's just a weird thing. And I don't know if I'm thinking too much into it from all the Men in Black stuff I read with John Keel.
No, it's kind of like a misunderstanding of how English works and what like he was supposed to say. Yeah. Yeah, because he was supposed to say you saw a bear, but he's like, no, I'm Bear. You saw
I am
deer.
not Gary. I am Bear.
Yeah.
Roar. But it's like one of those lost in translation kind of things because they don't know how to interact. That's kind of creepy, both of those. They're both like the exact same things. Why are they wearing plaid? Why have I never heard of this before?
It's almost like they want to be presentable as park rangers or like people in the woods, so they dress like lumberjacks to kind of like get that across.
Which is another weird thing if you put it that way, because Men in Black are like interpreting, they're supposedly otherworldly, right? And they're interpreting all these things wrong.
Yeah, they're putting their like understanding of how humans work onto like what we
so it's almost like the same kind of thing. I find that a really weird detail that they're wearing plaid and they're so tall.
Yeah. In late November of 2003 in Tazewell County, Virginia, while snow was on the ground, another witness this one doesn't want his name known. So another witness spotted a single bear footprint, and bear I mean B-A-R-E, footprint near a creek, just one footprint. He thought it was a prank until he found the second print, the opposite foot on the far bank. The stride between them was 3 of his own. He followed the trackway through the woods for about 150 yards until it led to a laurel thicket. And that's when he heard grunting, deep, heavy like a bear. Circling for a better view, he saw movement in a nearby tree, a 5.5 foot tall, black furred creature perched in the crook of the branches, gripping the trunk with one arm. He realized it was female, small breasts visible through the hair, and then another grunt came from the thicket. Second creature stood up, towering above the brush, its head massive, its eyes dark and pupilless. Panicked, this hunter fired and ran. When he looked back, the large creature was lifting the smaller one like a ragdoll and climbing a cliff face with impossible ease. The next day, a game warden came to investigate and they found blood in the snow, a bloody handprint on the rock, and collected samples. Before leaving, the warden warned him that someone from, quote, another agency, end quote, might be in touch. A week later, 2 men arrived at the hunter's workplace in a gray minivan with government plates. One was clean-cut, polite, wearing a suit. The other was huge, 6'8", long hair, scruffy beard, dressed nothing like a government employee. They asked to speak privately, followed him home, and listened to his story. When he finished, the big man asked, "Do you think what you saw was really a Sasquatch?" Hunter said yes, 100% sure. The man replied, "No, you didn't. And it would be in your best interest to forget this ever happened." And then they left. And he stayed silent for 10 years.
Do you think the Bigfoots are connected with this big tall guy? Bear?
I don't know. It's just so weird that there is a different Men in Black just for this. And they drive like shittier cars and they don't dress as nice and they don't have to be put together.
This is so weird. Like, they almost seem like they're related. Though the Men in Black also appeared that way.
Yeah, and they just end up very blunt at the end of their story. They say, that's not what you saw. You saw something perfectly mundane. That's it.
I'm so confused. Why are they different than the Men in Black?
I don't know. It's perfectly just like this own catch of, it's both the Men in Black and like distinctly a Bigfoot phenomenon. It is so weird that these things happen, and like there are multiple stories of this duo showing up to Bigfoot encounters in weird ways.
This is so weird.
And I also really like that in that last one they showed up in a minivan. Like they were also doing like Amazon deliveries on the side, because intimidating Sasquatch witnesses is not that well paying.
No, they probably still, I mean, they're in the physical.
It's a ticket on the delivery for
Yeah.
Amazon stuff.
They do probably still need to pay rent and also attend to their otherworldly business.
That's the episode I have, is there are just weird claims that the government is involved with Bigfoot sightings. I could have done more, and now looking at the time this episode took, I thought it would have been longer, but I guess I shortened it a little too much when I was doing my edit.
Fucking love that. I loved every second of that. And here's my question. You look at Men in Black with like extraterrestrials that we talked about with John Keel. It seems as if they were like protecting the aliens to some extent, right? What interest, and I guess I just kind of asked that, what interest would they have in protecting Bigfoot? And if it's because, like, you think Men in Black with aliens, national security is what you always think, probably because of the movie with Will Smith, and, you know, the concern with the government with extraterrestrials. But it seems like they have an otherworldly thing. Like, what interest do they have? And what would make Bigfoot different? Why would these people be like the knockoff version of the Men in Black? Why are they the budget T-Neo Men in Black? What are they, like, what is it about Bigfoot?
I think this all goes back to, and this is my personal belief, is it's all the same phenomenon at the end of the day.
That's what I think too.
That we're all trying to figure out, and that this Men in X color group falls within that category as well. They're not actually a government body.
But why would they appear differently? Do you think it's just...
Well, I find it pretty interesting, too, that it's very clearly this one guy in, like, plaid and is very tall with a beard and, like, long hair shows up repeatedly.
That is paranormal in itself.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, nobody ever describes the same Man in Black guy, but at the same time, you can't say that because they're so nondescript. You don't know for sure.
That's so totally true. Maybe it's paranormal in itself. I tend to think of the Men in Black to be paranormal in itself. Perhaps it is the person that they're appearing to. I find Bigfoot, there's a lot of instances where he's sighted in relation to a UFO, or he's appearing, you know, with land, like
in a UFO.
In a UFO, piloting a UFO around orbs. He seems to be super paranormal as well. At first I thought maybe if he was to be like a flesh and blood creature, maybe this thing would, this plaid man in black, man in plaid, would appear because it's more earthy or whatever. But no, that doesn't make sense. It seems to be associated, a paranormal thing associated with a paranormal guy.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, yeah, it is distinctly Bigfoot. So it's weird that it is like these guys who are different show up for Bigfoot, not just Men in Black. So it is like Bigfoot are different than aliens.
But they're tied together. So why are these guys different?
Because it's vaguely the same thing.
And is it because of the nature of the sighting, I wonder?
It is entirely hard to say. Is it the fact that there's a different group who likes Bigfoot? So, like, it represents itself in a different way, this phenomenon.
Okay,
it's
so where did
they say? All we can do is look at the cases and just, say,
agree with
that's interesting. Let's see if we can draw anything from it.
It's
but, like,
confusing
at the same time,
to me, though.
Like, there's not
It's
enough
so
information.
confusing to me.
Yeah.
And you said something about a podcast.
Yes, it apparently is from Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles Radio. They did a few episodes where they just talked about this man in plaid that shows up to sightings.
I'm definitely...
SC 70 through 72.
Okay, I'm definitely looking at that. I love that. You know me, I love the really weird stuff. That was super weird. And I'm like reeling it, trying to wrap my head around what this means right now.
The reason they were talking about it like for a while is because they kept getting people calling the show and saying they saw the same guy. So they're like, well, we have to do an episode where we just talk about these stories we keep getting.
Yeah,
from people.
I love it. And I'm speechless. I'm just trying to figure, like, what?
Well, that's okay. I think the only speech we need at this point is, I have been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.